next up, I mean, you know this driver. Why don't you talk a little bit about
John
him?
Temple. He's out here. I've been able to talk to him almost weekly now. I've got him set up on a Seto with a car that's similar to his spec that he's running today. So he was able to run OSW on the sim. I talked to him earlier, and he's like, hey, I was able to run a successful run. I'm like, oh, that's great. And I'm like, what's happening? Why aren't you practicing? He's like, oh, I got to fix some stuff. so he's coming out here. I saw his post on Instagram that he had to pray to the Nitrous gods. Let's see if those prayers are successful. As him running out here with that S chassis, he has been doing a fantastic job.
One of the things you got to love about John Temple and his team is that they're all very familiar with the drifting scene. They've all been around for a while, and nothing has shaken their charisma coming into a competition scene. I mean, they get here, they're just having the time of their life. They're taking the lessons on the shoulder as they come. And so I'm excited to see what he's going to do here. We know his car makes lots of grip. He's been kind of growing into it and having the car meet him halfway, because the car is clearly very capable, but his driving style and where the car's setup is have been kind of being married closer and closer every round. So we're waiting right now to see the green light for him. And then once again, thank you to the rest of our sponsors joining us today. We got Link ECU, Taxi Garage, Kenda Tires, Claim Defenders. I mean, all the sponsors that are coming together, I can only hope that they're having as much fun as we are with these events existing. We didn't have a Florida Pro-Am for the longest time.
Yeah.
We've had some kind of come and go, and now we've had consistent Pro-Am events for consistent seasons here from U.S. Drift Circuit. So a huge thank you to any of the sponsors that are joining us, and many of them have been with us from the start.
Yeah, it's so cool to see this whole thing like come together, and as everybody's out here just for the love of the game of drifting and having a grand old time. I've been able to, anybody that has ever been to a drift event, you could go to the pits, you could talk to all the drivers, they'll chat and explain what their thought process is during a drift event. Is amazing to see.
And also just worth mentioning here too, John Temple with some experience in the armed forces.
Oh, yeah.
It's always great to see veterans out here, and I mean, if you are all about the action from service, then drifting is definitely an action-packed event. So here we go, John Temple leaving the line. Let's see what kind of initiation he's going to give us. He throws a little bit of the weight early, and I don't know if he shut the car down there for a moment after the initiation point, but let's see what he's going to do for the rest of this run. Looks like the car at least is functioning okay today, so I think he's just having a little bit of trouble with the confidence making his way around the track, which is completely understandable. I mean, he needs a little bit more seat time, but it looks like he's at least understanding it. You can see even when some of the corrections and shutdowns are happening that you can almost see the gears kind of turning in his head as he's making his way through the run. But unfortunately, on track, I don't know if you're able to see it if you're watching the stream, but we do have some horizontal lines or vertical lines that go up the bank, and the car needs to be completely initiated after those lines. So if you initiate, go straight, and then reinitiate all before that you really get into the bank, but you're after those lines, it does constitute a zero. So interesting to see what the judges will make of that.
And when I was talking to John Temple this past couple of weeks, that initiation was one of the problems that he was saying that he was having, that he has to full send it, especially going into that first outer wall, especially with a low-powered car like what he has now. He has to huck that thing in order to be able to get to that outer zone. But then as soon as we saw him not fully initiate, but then at the end of that first outer zone, he was able to get it together and ride through that whole track. It was good to see. And now we're seeing John Temple scrubbing his tires up. He had a issue going on an initiation on this first qualifying round. Let's see if he puts some points up. I talked earlier how he has been putting the work on the sim. Let's see if it transfers over and actually come out here and qual and try to get into the bracket. But we're waiting for the lights. And here we go. John Temple out here with that S chassis, white, black, and orange, coming in with a nice big flick into that first outer wall. There we go, John, coming in smoke show all the way through that first outer zone, coming in, diving into that first inner clip. Money going into the second inner clip, using some slight e-brake going into that final outer zone, riding that throttle all the way around. Oh, mercy, and that's how you do it, baby. I think the sim worked.
No, I know he's got to be happy about at least doing a redemption run right there. And if he can just remember how that felt and repeat it the rest of the day, I think he's going to have a pretty good day ahead of him. I see you getting excited about that there. I know this run's close to you, too, because you got a chance. You've been, like you said, you've been speaking with him more and more and making himself accessible. And I was with you the one time we were hanging out with him just there in Discord. And he's serious about getting better. I mean, he really does see it as a tool, as most drivers do these days, to prepare for events like this. So definitely we'll have to go over and congratulate him on that one.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to give him a big old high five.
Big old high five.
Big old high five. But that doesn't mean the show is done there. He has to perform on tandems because we were talking about earlier how he reached out to me. We talked about it. So I'm always open with all the drivers. I'm like, hey, if you want me to help you out with a virtual car, I'm gonna help you out as much as I can, and just put in the work. As long as you're putting the effort in, I'm willing to watch you. And also, not only for the sim drivers, it's helping them out. It's also helping me out as a commentator because you've seen me in the Discord. I'll do some fun commentating over runs just to practice the layouts. That's why on previous on Sebring, I was a little nervous. But then when I'm here, I know the track. I'm comfortable with it. But I've always so put the work in. When you're the driver and you're putting the work in on the sim, you're going to put out some banger runs, just like how Temple just did right now.
To practice a bit more as we get ready to go into what will be a shortened summarized top 32. We had our top 16 bracket, and then we also had some more people who got a qualifying score than just 16. So I don't really want to call it a full top 32 because the majority of it is by runs. So quickly what we're going to do is head to the track where we're going to have just our those that need to be a matchup. I think we have about 4 or 5 battles, and then we're going to be into our top 16. First one's going to be Steven Tassinaro versus John Temple. Steven Tassinaro in the lead. John Temple giving him a little bit too much space as he gets into the wall. Steven Tassinaro doing a great job getting way up high on the bank, getting close to that wall. A little bit of a bobble, but does a great job filling that top outside zone as he dives into the inner clip. You see him take it out with John Temple looking to cut across, and he's all 4 tires off the track as he looks to make a surge. And Steven Tassinaro following the textbook instructions to get all the way out in that last outside zone as he comes around the track. An amazing lead run from Steven Tassinaro, kicking things off here for us here at Orlando Speed World.
Wow, that was a fun run from both drivers. Steven was going out there and just getting all the way up on that wall. It was fantastic to see. John Temple struggled a little bit going into that first inner clip. He kind of looked like he lost angle, a lot of angle, and then trying to catch up that proximity to the second inner clip, he went all off the track. We'll see how he performs here in the lead, and we got to make sure that he actually performs a actual good lead run and not choke up the driver, the chase driver.
Yeah, unfortunately, that chase would lead to a 0, and we saw, again, Steven Tassinaro with really the only big mistake we saw out there, of course, the fact that he did punt the one inner clipping point. John Temple coming from a 0, he's going to need to just put down a solid heater of a lead run now. He's not really in a position, from the lead position, to apply pressure on Steven Tassinaro and try to push a mistake, so he's going to have to, unfortunately, just hope that someone who's been very consistent will make a mistake. And you know, we're not wasting any time here. We had a little bit of trouble last round with our times and being able to get the runs back to back, moving quickly. We're not making that mistake this round, folks. We're going to keep the action coming at you as frequently as we can. So let's see what happens. John Temple here in the lead, doing a little bit of wobble and a feint entry to try and get himself seated on that outside zone. So far, getting up there on the outside top of the wall. He's doing a great job getting higher than he was doing all practice. Steven Tassinaro, though, answering the call and keeping that proximity. He knows right now that all he needs to do is secure a safe chase run, and that'll place him into the next part of this bracket. And looking right now, John Temple has a lot to be proud of on that run, but unfortunately, with that 0 on the earlier run, it looks like the judges will likely give this one over to Steven.
Well, John Temple definitely came up to the game and just put out a banger of a lead run, but unfortunately with that 0, like you said earlier, it's going to be the final nail in the coffin, but definitely is not something that he should be sad about. Especially of all the troubles he was having towards the beginning of practice and just trying to get the car up and running. We saw earlier, right before the top 32, that John Temple didn't even run practice. He was probably trying to save his car a little bit so he could try to get on there. So we're hearing back from the judges. And Steven gets the win. He is moving on to the top 16. John Temple, hell of a run, my man. But we'll see you next round.